Todd Chang with Premier FPL. I'm going to be doing my Game Week 20 FPL tips. So a little bit for the agenda. Start out here. I think I'll review my last two game weeks, kind of go over how things went with that. Followed up by reviewing my Game Week 20 through 23 FPL Fixtures difficulty ranking here. So after that, I think I'll wrap up just kind of going over some of the injuries to watch out for, some rotations, maybe even discuss a little bit about captain's picks, and then wrap it up from there. As always, really appreciate getting the subscriptions. That helps out the channel more than anything else, especially right now. Even giving a thumbs up helps to get some exposure out there. And yeah, especially getting the subscriptions in. Feel free to leave comments. I do try to get in there and respond to them as best I can. Even though I do have a pretty busy weekend coming up, I'll still try to respond to any comments. All right, so jumping in here, let's go over. This was my Game Week 19 score here, which ended up doing not too bad. I'll go back to Game Week 18, where did not do well at all. Ended up well below the average. That was just a really terrible showing from just about everyone. Ended up going with Sterling as my captain, Sane as vice captain, which panned out to absolutely nothing. Really thought that they were going to do much better against Crystal Palace. Ended up scored 2 goals, but of course Sterling and Sane weren't involved in either of them. And then they ended up losing the match to go along with that. And even here, Leicester thought that they would do much better against Leicester. Ended up with just a 1 goal, and again, Sane and Sterling not involved in that one. So that really has not worked out for me at all. I would say, generally speaking, my move from Salah to Sterling hasn't worked out at all. Been very disappointed with that. Completely missed out on all of Sterling's points, and then have also missed out on all of Salah's recent points. I did do well having him early on, and that's actually one of the things that I'm considering doing is moving back to Salah. So kind of fair warning for everybody to be prepared for Sterling to start scoring and Salah to drop off the face of the earth once again, if I do actually go ahead with that move. I think my saving graces for that week, again, Robertson did well, Kane did well, should have had him as my captain, and then Richarlison also did well. Interestingly, Richarlison, his 5 points, did better than Sterling as my captain. So yeah, really terrible week. That dropped me still within top 100,000, but it really hurt my overall ranking. Last game week went much better for me. Went with Kane as my captain. Again, Sterling and Sane have been just kind of dead weight in there. I could have done better just as well keeping Fraser and Wilson in there. And if I had dropped both of Salah or Sterling and Sane, would have had plenty of room to bring in Salah. Maybe even have a Hazard Salah midfield, but as it is, this is where it's at. So leaves me with some decisions to make for Game Week 20 and moving forward, especially with the lack of form with Sterling and Sane recently. So yeah, did much better this game week, well above the average, which is where I like to be. Definitely would prefer to be in this 70 to 80 point range. A solid score, so hoping to keep moving in that direction. All right, so looking forward to Game Week 20 through 23. Now, between Game Week 21 and 22, there is this break in here, so you got to be careful with that. I believe that's actually an FA Cup week. I should probably look that up and figure it out for sure. Don't remember exactly what it is, but just need to be aware that there is that gap in there. Never know what's going to happen with players, but it's good to plan ahead and be prepared for this Game Week 12 and 19 to look at these some of these favorable fixtures coming up here. So looking at this, You have Burnley, Watford, and Leicester City with the best fixtures coming up ahead. Cardiff has some decent ones, just that Tottenham match there. Way Tottenham has been playing lately, I wouldn't really fancy having anybody from Cardiff. Chelsea has this great run of fixtures in here. Everton, another great run. Huddersfield even has some good fixtures against some of these lower tier teams before they face Man City. Yeah, Tottenham. Again, their only real difficult one is Manchester United, and I could definitely see plenty of goals being scored in that one. United has looked better recently, so they have some good fixtures in here. Probably a good time to look at bringing in some of those players. So thinking about that, Rashford, Martial, Pogba, Lukaku has been out on compassionate leave, so we'll see if he comes back or not. But at least there's Rashford, Martial. He was out ill earlier this week, so we'll see if he returns for the weekend or not. Lingard is an interesting one. Hadn't scored for a while until this past weekend. So, yeah, Pogba on penalty kick duties. It's a good one. If you like someone like Mata, who is on free kicks and some corners, it's a decent one too. But anyway, so looking ahead here, I think the three even to look at would be Leicester City. If we go back to Watford, they looked much better in their midweek match. So they might be another one to look at bringing some players in, like Pereira, even a Troy Deeney up front. Never know when he's going to get a goal. Leicester City, you have Madison. Let's see, where do I have that? I do have that person up. So Leicester City, you have Pereira in defense. At 5.1, he's kind of pushing the upper limits of defenders there. But Madison, a 6.8 midfielder, isn't too bad. And Vardy getting some more playing time. A goal and assist in the last two matches. If he's back in form, he is definitely a good one to have. At 8.8, it's kind of the middle range of kind of on the fence of whether or not to have him. If you have him, you really better hope that he scores goals. 4.2% ownership is still a pretty good differential. So those are kind of the three to target. Of course, they are at the top as far as points scored for Leicester City go. So there's a good reason why they're up here at the top. Everton is the one that I would say to target. Sigurdsson has really turned on the form recently, looking a lot better. Got a goal in the weekend, so did Richarlison. Midweek. And even Digne, however you want to say it. I already have him in my team, have Richarlison in my team. I like having them there. Not sure that I really trust any of the others. Maybe Bernard. He's looked pretty good, getting forward, getting in there offensively. So he might be a decent one. At 0.2% ownership, that's a very good differential if he's able to actually get points. The only issue is he's not really scoring goals, but he is getting the assists. So most of his points coming from assists and clean sheets. So if he keeps that up, good shout there. The issue is he's not really a goal scoring threat, but he will get assists. I like Richarlison, Sigurdsson better because of their ability to do both, get goals and assists. And having someone like Digne on free kicks is a great chance to get some attacking points from a defender, and if they can keep their clean sheet, have Brighton away, Leicester at home, Bournemouth home, Southampton away. It kind of touch and go. We'll see if they're able to actually keep clean sheets against them. I could see Brighton being a clean sheet game, but Leicester's look good offensively. Bournemouth and Southampton look much better offensively as well, but I also see there being goals scored in all of these matches. Chelsea is the other one. Now, Hazard is one that I'm actually considering getting. I had him at one point. Wish I would have kept him now. It's kind of, that's the way that fantasy goes. You never know when a player is really going to turn it on and get you points. He's been a little bit hot and cold, but for the most part has been scoring fairly consistent points, especially in matches where they score goals, where they win especially. He is the one that's in there getting most of the points for the team. So 3 straight excellent matches. Crystal Palace away. It's an interesting derby. Could see goals on both sides, especially the way Crystal Palace is playing lately. That's a team, they're down here at the bottom as far as their fixtures go, but it's a team that has started to score points, score goals, could make things interesting in these upcoming matches, even against Liverpool. So if you want to go look at some interesting attacking threats, Andros Townsend, Zaha, good attacking potential for Crystal Palace team. But here with Chelsea, I would say, the top 4 here are the big 4 that you want to look at bringing in with them. David Luiz is a little bit cheaper if you want to go with him as a defender. Has been racking up very consistent points. At least in the last couple of weeks, has only managed to 2, but this mainly because of he really does rely on the clean sheet to get that extra bonus in there. But prior to that, he was racking up very consistent points, and I could see him continuing to do that moving forward. So we bring up Crystal Palace. Milivojevic, interesting. Van Holt, interesting as well. I still have Wan-Bissaka, got him at 4.1. I'm going to keep him in there. But Zaha and Townsend are kind of the 2 creative players in there. Townsend at only 5.8 is a pretty good one to have. 2.7, like all of these guys are differentials except for Wan-Bissaka. So if you really want to look at a interesting differential that could kind of come out of nowhere, I would say that is one of the teams to look at for that. So yeah, Huddersfield too. They're not super thrilling in any way. But they're a team that could give you some room to play around with, bringing in players that are going to play but are a little bit cheaper. 90 minutes for most of the season for Philip Billing. Gets an occasional goal, but he's not. These guys aren't like thrilling. They're not exciting players that are going to really bring in consistent high scoring points, but they will bring in points. These are guys that will play week in and week out. Danka, Schindler. Schindler has played almost every minute of every match this season, except for this one where he was pulled off with 20 minutes to go. So yeah, he's a guy that will get you consistent points, and at 4.4 is a good way to have a bargain player in there that then you can load up in midfield. Same thing with Billing if you want to load up front. Mounier, Mounier at 5.8 is a little bit too high. Depoitre might be a little bit better at 5.1, and he's a serious differential, 0.5% ownership. The only issue with him is the playing time. So I would say the better ones to go for is Billing if you want a really cheap midfielder, or Zonka or Schindler. Either one of them are good for defense. I guess the big thing for me this week is looking at these players that are in form. I have 2 players who are definitely not in form in Sané and Sterling, and it's kind of a toss-up about whether or not I want to get rid of them. They have Southampton away. Southampton has looked a lot better. It's followed by Liverpool at home, Wolverhampton at home. So they've still been scoring goals, but the issue here is, Sterling, Sané bringing in 2 points each the last 2. That's a whole lot of dead weight, especially considering this price tag, 11.4. I could do a straight swap for Hazard. Sorry about that. Straight swap for Hazard, and got a guy who has great fixtures coming up, has already been scoring goals in recent matches. Could even do the straight swap Sterling and Sané, bring in Son and Hazard. Son is like massive informed player at the moment. As you can see, 7 goals this season, 4 of which have come in the last 2 matches, 2 assists, got a clean sheet in their last match. Tottenham are scoring goals for fun recently. Don't look like letting up. So, yeah, Son is a very interesting one. You do want to be aware that, they do have Man City coming up. They have United coming up. And then shortly after that, I don't remember the exact time frame, but he will be going away to play for Korea in the Asian Cup. So he will be out for a little bit of time there. But this might be a good time to jump in there, bring him in for a couple matches, get a couple points. If you're into the whole value thing with your team, if you bring him in now, he's able to get some more points, get some more managers on board with that, get his cost up there. Just make sure you get out before his cost drops. Really these top 3 are the ones that I'm looking at as far as bringing in. I can definitely fit Salah in here, dropping Sterling. Could drop Sterling and Sane, make room to bring in Salah, as well as bring in Hazard. If I bring in Salah, I'll have to make room somewhere. Bring in like a lower midfielder here to fill the gap in the price there. So, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm really disappointed with Sterling and Sane, but that's kind of the way fantasy goes. You get a guy who's hot for a while, in form, and then suddenly drops off, and you never know when he's going to come back. So I don't know if he just needs a rest, so it might be a good time to just drop Sterling anyway, because it seems like it's a time that he will get a rest. Got these 2 quick fixtures back to back here. Let's see what their playing time is. They play on the 30th and then on the 3rd, so very quick turnaround. Already played in the midweek match here after having played on the weekend, so a lot of matches here in a row. It could be a good time to move on from Sterling. As far as captain picks go, definitely looking at Kane. If I bring in Hazard, I'll most likely... I think I would probably go with Hazard over Kane. Oh man, that's a toss-up. I don't know. Tottenham are at home and they're scoring goals for fun, so I think I'm actually talking myself into having Kane as my captain for this weekend, regardless of who I bring in. It doesn't seem like a great time to bring in Salah, just because they have Arsenal and then they have City. The same token, maybe it is a great time to bring him in just because he is in such great form. Has continued to score goals, even when I thought that he was done. 3, 4, 5 goals in the last 4 matches. Already 12 goals this season. So either way, I'll probably look at targeting going back to Salah around this game week 22. So it might be a good time for me to look at doing a Sterling for Hazard swap. Could even do the Sane for Son swap, and then that'll give me time to save up a couple transfers to look to move ahead with the Salah transfer here for game week 22. All right, rounding out, I usually use Premier injuries for my looking at injuries for the week. I don't really have any real connection. I was in a league with Ben Dinnery in the past, but that's really about that's actually how I heard about it, so I guess that is the big connection there. But I like the layout of it. I like the setup with has the details of what's going on here, status. I just like the kind of layout for it. But going through it, some of the higher profile ones, Bellerin's still out, Mkhitaryan out. Arsenal has a lot of players out, so a lot of defensive players, which means it's actually probably a good time to target teams playing against Arsenal for attacking players. Izquierdo is the big one for Brighton, if you have anybody. Oh, Matt Ryan. He's actually probably the biggest one. With him being out, he's been pretty good for them this season. Burnley, I forgot to go over Burnley. You know, they're at the top here as far as fixtures go, but I really don't like anybody other than maybe Hart on their team. They're not really scoring goals. They're not doing that great defensively. So I know it plays out that they're at the top here, but I don't trust them really. I think West Ham should be able to get this win. So yeah, I don't really trust them too much. Cardiff, nobody real interesting there. Sahor out, but yeah, I don't know that he's really that many people have him. Chelsea, it looks like Morata is going to be available. Whether he plays or not, you know, we'll see. That if he does play, that would be interesting for how Hazard will do. I think with Morata up front, it does kind of limit what Hazard does as far as scoring goals. Mm-hmm. There's also Pedro out. Crystal Palace, nobody major there. Everton, same thing. Fulham, nothing. Huddersfield, Aaron Moy is out. He's kind of the big one for them. Leicester doesn't have anybody. Liverpool, nobody really that affects anything for fantasy. City still has Mendy out, Delph out, which does bode well for Sane. I think he'll continue to play. Gabriel Jesus, if he's still out, then I think that does well for Sergio Aguero owners with him playing. Martial looks like he and Lukaku may or may not play. Sanchez looks like he's on his way coming back at some point, but you know, these are the two big ones, Martial and Lukaku, if they're going to play. I would say target Martial for now, but Lukaku could be an interesting one if he's able to turn things around. Nobody really from Newcastle. Southampton looks okay. Tottenham, nobody really affecting fantasy other than maybe somebody who still has Ali in their team. Watford, same thing. Will Hughes being out, he could have been an interesting one. He still could be an interesting one. Andre Gray out. He was in the past has been a decent one to own. The big one here, Hernandez and Arnautovic both at 50%. I doubt they'll be able to play this weekend. Maybe they'll be ready for the midweek next week. I guess we'll see with that. And then Diogo Jota is the only one here for Wolverhampton, 50%. So, all right, yeah, that kind of wraps up the injuries. Again, subscribe to the channel. Get the then you'll find out when I'm, have them coming out every week. I do have Twitter at Premier FPL, though I really only use it. I don't really use that too much. Trying to think what else there is. Yeah, hit thumbs up. Leave your comments below. Let me know what your captain is. Let me know if you're doing any big changes for this week. Bringing in Salah, dropping Sterling. If you had any big points over the last couple of weeks, would love to hear about that as well. Anyway, yeah, I think that wraps everything up for this week. As always, good luck. Have fun.